Alright, so Pierce is finally talking about the third model of communication that he suggests happens, and it is cosmopolitan communication. And it is very unlike the other ones that we've covered so far of monocultural, ethnocentric, and modernistic. It's very different from those forms of communication in the way that it kind of transcends those rigid patterns. And he explains that the coordination of cosmopolitan communication happens without denying the existence or humanity of other ways of achieving coherence and mystery, which is what we see in monocultural communication. It also does not oppose other ways of coherence and mystery, which is what we see with ethnocentric communication. And finally, it is not committed to a perpetual process of changing one's own way of achieving coherence and mystery, which is what modernistic communication implied and showed. And so again, you can see cosmopolitan communication is kind of transcending those rigid patterns. But rather, what happens with cosmopolitan communication is that it pronounces some key basic things that I'll now discuss. And that is, one, that it does not put resources at risk, as we see with modernistic communication, with the scientific method and all that. You know, as you're taking a resource of what you're drawing meaning from and you put it on the altar, if you will, of science to see if it stands or not. That did not happen with cosmopolitan communication. Another one is that you treat all people as natives. So unlike ethnocentric communication, where there is the native and the non-native, or those other people, that is not happening in cosmopolitan communication as well. Rather, it's just this normalization, well, not normalization, but rather this view of seeing everyone as a native. And then finally, just a basic kind of idea of sensitivity and mindfulness is what we see happening in cosmopolitan communication. Now, it's kind of hard to imagine some models or examples of this, but there are some examples out there that Pierce kind of uses to illustrate his point of cosmopolitan communication. And one example that he emphasizes in the article is interpretive and critical research. He uses the approach of what are the new Christian rights, or the secular humanists, who are very kind of liberal in their approach. Nonetheless, they are an example of cosmopolitan communication. And they kind of go right along with those things I said that cosmopolitan communication pronounces, which is that they are mostly concerned with increasing their sensitivity and sophistication in their research, rather than looking for better ways of research. Another one is the emphasis of eloquence, which means that they're very versed in what they are researching or what they are studying. Again, they are very, the perspective of the non-native and native is not distinguished that way as native and other people as non-native. Rather, it's as natives. Everyone's as natives. Another approach with those researchers, or that critical research, is that they don't put the resources at risk. So again, they are using those resources to kind of further, increase their sensitivity and their sophistication in that research, rather than trying to put them at risk and put them on the altar of scientific method or things like that, and trying to see if it stands or not. No, they don't do that in their research. And then finally, they also look for non-pattern solution to their research. So again, they are not following ethnocentric or modernistic communication models at all. Rather, they are looking for non-pattern solutions, very kind of, for the lack of a better word, I would say very mindful and very sensitive, which is what I've been talking about this whole time. Finally, the resources of cosmopolitan communication involving those three basic points: truth, time, self, and society. Truth basically incorporates the validity of alternate stories, which is seen as enriching because it diversifies the body of, people's stories of how they achieve coherence and mystery, rather than trying to reject them and keep them separate as non-natives. But at the same time, we recognize that my way or our ways are still very unique in the way that we create coherence and mystery. Time is seen as not so much as laws and rules dictating what we do, but rather as accidents that are happening in our process to achieve coherence and mystery. Self, again, us and others, we're seen as natives, we're all as natives. And then finally, society. And society is very interesting because we don't practice cosmopolitan communication enough for it to be institutionalized, obviously, because we don't see it happening very much. But what Pierce hoped for is that through our social practices, we can achieve this kind of cosmopolitan communication. And that is the bottom line of what Pierce is getting at with cosmopolitan communication. Alright? Thanks. Bye.